In this video lesson, I want to show you guys how to create in-text citations in APA style. In-text citations, the basic idea of an in-text citation is whenever you add some evidence from a source into your essay, you have to tell the reader where that information came from. You have to give credit to the source. And that makes it very clear to the reader, number one, that you've done research, but number two, it makes it clear to the reader which ideas are yours and which ideas came from your sources. So let's look real quick at an example research paper in APA style that one of my students wrote in the past about UFOs. So as you scan down through this, you'll notice throughout her writing these parentheses, Roswell Online, ND, OpenStax College, 2014, Marsh, 2015. So these are in-text citations in APA style. And this is a really good example right here where you see it in a very simple way, author, year. And let's not get confused between the in-text citations and at the very end of the paper, the things that we've already created, which are references, a reference list. So the biggest difference, the reference list has like kind of complete information on the source. It tells you who wrote it, when they wrote it, it gives you the title of the source, more information, maybe even including a web address so that somebody can find that source. However, the in-text citation, you'll notice in the middle of the paragraph, we just give you minimal information, the author's name and the year, so that you know this information came from a source, but you don't get overwhelmed with information while you're trying to read the essay. And just to show you again, this is an example of a reference list that you create. We learned how to create that using APA Academic Writer. But what we're talking about now is in-text citations. So here's an example of a sentence that includes evidence that came from a source. And I'm going to show you two different ways that you could add an APA-style citation to this sentence. So you see the sentence, sea ice in the Arctic has already been reduced by 9% per decade and is projected by the ACIA to completely melt by the year 2100. So there are two main things you need to include in the APA-style citation, and they are the author's last name and the year it was published. So for this first one, I'll put it at the beginning of the sentence. And so the author's name here was Handwork, and the year was 2004. So a couple things I need to do. At the beginning of the sentence, the year needs to go in the parentheses, because it's not really part of the sentence. It's like extra information. And the next thing is handwork is part of the sentence. It is actually the subject of the sentence now. So what I need is a verb. And so what did handwork do? So there's a lot of verbs you can use. You could say handwork reports that, and of course small s because it's not the beginning of the sentence now. Handwork reports that sea ice is in the Arctic. Handwork argues that sea ice in the Arctic. Handwork states that sea ice in the Arctic. Handwork insists that sea ice in the Arctic. There are lots of different verbs you could use here, reporting verbs. I'm going to stick with reports because each reporting verb gives you a slightly different feeling. And in this case, I'm using reports because it's a very neutral kind of verb. And this is a case where all he's doing is he's giving us data. He's giving us information. So that's it. So I will go ahead and highlight it. But this is my APA-style citation at the beginning of a sentence. There's another way to do it. You could do it after the sentence, at the end. And so in this case, same sentence, and I still have to include handwork 2004. And so in this one, you always want to do it before the period. But basically, I have to create a parentheses and just put in the name, handwork. And then we add a comma, 2004. And that one is pretty simple. You don't even have to add a verb because grammatically the citation is not part of the sentence. So at the end of the sentence, you just need to make sure you've got the author's name and the year. You need to put them both inside of parentheses. You need to put a comma after the author's name, and make sure that the period for the sentence comes after the citation. And so that's it. That's two different ways to add in-text citations in APA style to a sentence that includes information that comes from a source. So make sure as you're writing your research paper that you include these in-text citations so that it's very clear to your readers which ideas are yours and which ideas came from a source that you read.